Kindly let us all be upstanding. Please stay standing. We'll have the national anthem, the EAC anthem play. Kindly take your seats. Honorable Joseph Mkude, our guest of honor and District Commissioner of Arusha. Honorable Veronica Nduva, the Secretary General of the East African Community and our host today. Honorable Andrea Rick, Deputy Secretary General of the EAC. Honorable Annette Semwemba, Deputy Secretary General of the EAC, Ms. Flavia Businje, the Chairperson of the Rwandan Diaspora in Arusha and Moshi, Mr. Louis Uwimana, the representative of the Rwandan High Commission in the United Republic of Tanzania, Ms. Tembile Segoete, Senior Legal Officer and representing the Office of the Prosecutor, the International Residual Mechanism for Criminal Tribunals, Mr. Jean-Louis Loyan, representative of the Office of the President of the International Residual Mechanism for Criminal Tribunals, Ms. Aisha Kagawo, representing the Office of the Registrar of the International Residual Mechanism for Criminal Tribunals, Dr. Muiza Nkata, Principal Legal Officer and representing the African Court on Human and People's Rights, Ambassador Amy Ramadan Mpungwe, our keynote speaker today, Dr. Alphonse Mulefu, the Acting Principal, College of Arts and Social Sciences, University of Rwanda, and our speaker today as well. Excellencies, heads and representatives of diplomatic missions in Tanzania, our youth present, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 31st commemoration of the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda under the theme, Remember, Unite, Renew. Today, as we have done in the past 30 years, we honor over 1 million victims who lost their lives in just 100 days. We comfort survivors and pay tribute to Rwandans who stopped the genocide and liberated the country. Our guest of honor, distinguished guests, as the Rwandan community in Arusha and Moshi, we are really honored by your presence here today. And our hope is that from today's event, you'll be inspired by the resilience of the Rwandan people as we continue to remember those that we lost, unite in the pursuit of a future dedicated to peace, unity, and prosperity, and as we renew our commitment to fight genocide ideology, its denial, revisionism, so as to prevent such tragedies from ever happening again. And today, we continue to say, never again. We'll now proceed to the opening prayer, and I would like to invite Pastor Ben Mageni to lead us in a word of exhortation. Karibu.
Shall we bow down our heads and pray? Almighty God, Father of all creation, our God, we worship you, Lord, in the beauty of your holiness and the splendor of your majesty. Lord, we approach you boldly. Amen. Amen. Friends, I just want to remind you of a very simple word that applies to everybody here. The word peace. The Bible says in the book of Romans chapter 12, verse 18, if it is possible, and as far as it is dependent on you, live peaceably with everyone else. I'll paraphrase it. As far as it is within your capacity, as far as you can do it, live at peace with everyone around you. Romans chapter 12, verse 8. The same Bible says in Matthew 5, verse 9, that children of God shall only be identified by one thing. You shall be called children of God because you seek and you make peace. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. In just these 3 remaining minutes, I want to tell you my experience, people of God. I have observed over time that there is something that can either derail or destroy our journey to our destinies if it is mishandled. And that is the aspect of relationships. If relationships are mishandled, in other words, if we handle relationships outside the light of the Word of God, then we are likely to miss the mark. We are likely to be destroyed and be derailed in our journey to our destinies. Relationships are very important. I want to call each one of you to look at your friends, look at your colleagues, look at your family members, your wife, your husband, your neighbors, the street that you live in. How do you handle relationships? It's a matter of make or break when it comes to posterity, when it comes to us succeeding during our lifetime. People of God, as I talk about peace, I want to remind you that conflicts and confrontations are inevitable. Why? Because we are different. God created us differently, diverse in many ways, yet we are required to live together in unity and peace. So conflicts and confrontations will come because we may at some point look at things from different perspectives. But that does not mean we lose our sight to the ultimate goal that God has called us to, which is to live peaceably with each other. We should not avoid confronting things that we ought to confront. We should not overlook battles and run away from them when we are required to face battles. That is the truth of the Word of God. However, people of God, I want to remind you one thing. Make adjustments for the sake of peace, but do not compromise in the name of peace. That's very important. Always don't hesitate, based on Romans 12 verse 8, to make adjustments for the sake of peace, but don't compromise in the name of peace. People of God, always ask yourself before you embark on a battle, am I confronting this battle because my comfort is disturbed, or am I confronting this battle because my conscience is disturbed? Is it a matter of preference, or is it a matter of principle? If it's a matter of preference, why not make adjustments? However, if it requires that you compromise on your principles, then no, confront that battle. Don't avoid battles that are necessary just because you are scared or you are afraid to make changes. No, not at all. God is not calling us to that. People of God, I want to tell each one of you here how you handle your relationships with the people who are linked with you, probably at your workplace, in the government offices, in your families, will determine whether you reach your destiny or not. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. For those few remarks, I want to tell you that I'm here to represent my apostle, Apostle Tris Shumbusho, Senior Pastor of Zion City Church and President of Echo Ministry International. With those few remarks, God bless you.
Thank you very much, Pastor Mangeni, for your word of exhortation. Na kwa hivi sasa naomba nimkaribishe Sheikh Mkuu wa mkoa wa Arusha for a word of prayer. Karibu. And maybe for guidance, let's try and speak a bit far from the microphone so that the sound is clearer.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Ndugu zangu, leo tuko ndani ya kumbukumbu nzito katika maisha ya wanadamu, na ni matukio hayakutokea kwa bahati mbaya. Ni mambo yalitengenezwa na jamii zetu. Na miongoni mwa vitu ambavyo tumeambiwa na wanazuoni wetu kuwa na tahadhari navyo visituingize katika matatizo ni ulimi. Waandishi wa habari, viongozi waliopo kwenye serikali, sisi viongozi wa dini na watu wote mitaani wanahitaji kuangalia ndimi zao wakati wanapopeleka ujumbe ili jamii isipate athari. Kuna maneno ya mwanachuoni yanasema al-lisanu laysa adhumun walakinahu yuksaru al-idham. Ulimi si mfupa, au ulimi hauna mfupa lakini ulimi unavunja mifupa. Al-lisanu laysa sayfun walakinahu yasfiku dima. Ulimi si upanga lakini ulimi unamwaga damu. Kwa hiyo matukio yoyote ambayo tutaingia kwenye jamii zetu, ni ndimi zetu zitakapokuwa na uongozi kutoa maelekezo, alafu jamii inaweza ikaingia katika matatizo makubwa. Alafu mwisho wa siku leo tunakaa kama hapa kukumbuka matukio ambayo yametokea kwa dhuri jamii zetu. Kwa hiyo tutajifunza kupitia Rwanda leo kwa yale ambayo yametokea, lakini lazima na sisi tuchukue tahadhari kwa ajili ya manufaa ya nchi zetu, tusiingie katika matatizo ambayo yametokea. Kwa bahati nzuri nilifanikiwa kwenda Kigali na nilikwenda kwenye ili sehemu ili tukio jinsi lilivyokuwa, tukawa tumejaribu kutembea na kuona. Nilikuwa katika mtaa mmoja unaitwa Nyamirambo kama sikosei. Kwa kweli ni jambo linasikitisha sana ukiliangalia. Ni jambo linatia huzuni kwenye jamii. Na ndio maana tukifanya kumbukumbu kama hizi ni nzuri ili kuwafanya watu wasirudi kule walikotoka. Kwa kumalizia, Mwenyezi Mungu kwenye Qur'ani katika suratul Hujurat sura ya 49 aya ya 13 anasema kuwahusia watu, ya ayuhan nas, enyi watu, inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha, hakika mimi Mwenyezi Mungu nimewaumba kutokana na mume na mke, yani Adam na Hawa. Waja'alnakum shu'uban wa qabaila litaarafu, na nikawaumba makabila mbalimbali na mataifa mbalimbali, litaarafu, kwa lengo la kujuana tu kwamba huyu ni mtu wa nchi gani na huyu ni mtu wa nchi gani. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum, hakika aliye bora mbele yenu ni ule mcha Mungu wenu. Kwa hiyo asili yetu ya kuumbwa sisi tumetokana na Adam na Hawa, na mke na mume. Swala la huyu kwamba ni mrefu au mfupi, ni Mwarabu, ni mzungu, ni Muhindi, ni kabila gani, ni vitu havina mantiki yote katika maisha ya wanadamu. Kwa hiyo tukitaka kubaguana tunaanzia hapo. Ukienda kwenye yale makumbusho kule utaona kuna watu pale, nadhani ni wazungu, wanapima tu baina ya pua ndefu na fupi, tunaonyeshwa ile mifano pale. Kwa ndugu zangu, tusibaguliwe kwa tafsiri ya kwamba wewe ni bora katika kabila lako, au ni bora katika dini yako, au ni bora katika taifa lako, au ni bora namna ulivyoumbwa na Mungu. Kilicho sawasawa, kila mtu ni mwanadamu. Mataifa na makabila ni kwa malengo tu ya kujuana kwamba huyu uko fulani na huyu, basi litaarafu tu, lakini aliye bora zaidi ni mcha Mungu. Kwa hiyo tuzidhibiti ndimi zetu ili tusiwaingize watu katika matatizo ambayo haya yametokea. Ni mambo magumu sana katika jamii zetu, ni mambo mabaya sana katika jamii zetu. Lakini wasia wa mwisho, wanasema wanawazuoni kuhusiana na wale viongozi, umuhimu wao. Mwanachuoni mmoja baada ya kuangalia jamii kwamba sasa inaanza kubadilika, kutakuleta vurugu, alisimama akawaambia, tunanukuu, la taqtulu usuda biladikum, msiue simba wa miji yenu, msiue simba wa miji yenu. Mkiwaua simba wa miji yenu watakuja kuwala mambwa wa maadui zenu. La taqtulu usuda biladikum fatakulakum kilabu aadaikum, msiwaue masimba wa miji yenu. Mkiwaua simba wa miji yenu watakujeni kuwala mambwa wa maadui zenu. Watu wote wenye maarifa duniani wanapotaka kupigia mifano huwa wanampigia simba, kwa sababu ni mnyama jasiri, ni mnyama na akili, ni mnyama na maarifa makubwa sana. Kwa hiyo hawa viongozi wetu tunawaona hawa, Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, rais wa Tanzania, Mheshimiwa kina Paulo Kagame, wale ni viongozi, wale ni masimba katika miji. Siku tukiwapiga vita au tukiwaua maadui zetu kule pembeni, wale wao sisi wale ni masimba, maadui wanafuga mbwa. Siku mkiwaondoa viongozi wenu wale masimba, watakuja kuwala mambwa wale maadui zenu. Na watu wote waliofanya hayo mambo dhidi ya viongozi wao waliingia katika matatizo. Kwa hiyo kuna umuhimu wa kuheshimu viongozi wetu ambao wako madarakani, ili tuweze kuendelea kuwa na salama na amani na kuishi hivi tulivyo. Tumekutana mataifa mbalimbali, makabila mbalimbali, tunazungumza, tunafurahi na tunaondoka kwa amani, na hivi ndivyo tunavyomtaka Mungu atujalie. Naomba tuombe. Mwenyezi Mungu, muumba mbingu na ardhi na vyote vilivyomo, tunakuomba kwa kikao chetu cha leo hiki utujalie yote ambayo yatazungumzwa na yatafahamishwa kwa jamii ambayo imehudhuria yaingie kwenye akili zetu, ili tuendelee kuwa na amani na utulivu katika nchi zetu za Afrika Mashariki. Utuondolee mabalaa yote ambayo ima yataanza kwa fikra za ukabila au udini au kisiasa. Mwenyezi Mungu tupe amani, tupe usalama, tupe utulivu. Na wote waliokuja hapa warudi kwa salama, kwa salimini. Mwenyezi Mungu ibariki Tanzania, Mwenyezi Mungu ibariki Rwanda, Mwenyezi Mungu ibariki Afrika Mashariki, Mwenyezi Mungu ibariki Afrika. Amin, amin. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Asante sana Sheikh kwa mawaidha, sana sana kutukumbusha ubaya wa ulimi wa chuki ya dhidi ya ukabila. Asante sana. We are now moving on to the signing of the condolence book, and I would like to invite our guest of honor, Honorable Joseph Mkude, to please come forward and sign the condolence book. I would like to request the people in charge of protocol to please guide. Thank you very much. Thank you to the band. Thank you. I'll now invite the Secretary General of the EAC to please sign the condolence book. Thank you very much, Honorable SG. And next on our program is lighting of the flame of hope. Allow me to briefly let you know what the significance of this lighting is. The flame of hope is lit to symbolize the resilience and the courage of Rwandans in the face of tragedy, and to serve as a visual reminder to the international community to always speak out against hate and work towards a future of peace and unity. In that regard, I want to take this opportunity to first of all recognize the decision of the EAC Council of Ministers to set the 7th of April every year as an International Remembrance Day. I also wish to recognize the summit of the EAC heads of state who, in standing in solidarity with the Rwandan people, erected the Genocide Memorial at the EAC headquarters in 2014. And that is where we laid the wreaths this morning. Finally, I want to particularly thank the Honorable Secretary General for following through with that same spirit to host today's event, and also for being personally present. Asante sana, SG. On that note, Honorable SG, I would like to invite you, in the company of our guest of honor, to please come forward and light the flame of hope. Thank you very much to the band. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and I also want to appreciate that everybody took the cue and lit the candles. Thank you for showing solidarity to the Rwandan people. I would like to take this opportunity now to welcome Honorable Andrea Arika Guer to give his welcoming remarks. Karibu DSG. Perhaps as the DSG is coming forward, I would like to say that the condolence book will not be removed here. After today's event, please feel free to come forward and sign the condolence book. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director of Ceremony, Excellency, our guest of honor, Joseph Makonde, representing the district, representing His Excellency Paul Makonda, Regional Commissioner of Arusha, Honorable Veronica Duva, Secretary General of East Africa Community, my colleague, Honorable Annette Soema, Deputy Secretary General of East Africa Community, representative of Resident Mechanism of Criminal Tribunal, Deputy Mayor of Arusha, Excellencies, heads and representatives of diplomatic missions, continental and international organizations present here, heads and representatives of executives of EAC organs and institutions present here and those following us online, heads of religious institutions, EAC staff, Madam Flavia, the chairperson of Rwanda community in Arusha and Mushi, members of Rwanda community in Arusha and Mushi, students from high schools and universities of Arusha region, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning. I believe it's still good morning. A very good morning to you all. Is it afternoon or morning? Thank you. It is my honor to extend a warm welcome to all the distinguished guests and dignitaries present here today at the 31st commemoration of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. We are deeply grateful for your presence, which reflects your solidarity with the people of Rwanda and your commitment to the global fight against genocide ideology. Your participation in this commemoration is a gesture of respect for the victims and survivors, and a powerful testament of unity, justice, and shared humanity. Today marks the 31st commemoration of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, and the 11th year since the EAC took the ownership of this important commemoration event. Since 2014, the EAC, alongside our partner community in Arusha and Mushi, the Embassy of Rwanda, International Residual Mechanism for Criminal Tribunals, and the African Court on Human and People's Rights, religious groups, students, and EAC staff has commemorated this tragedy every April 7th at the EAC headquarters here in Arusha. While 31 years may seem long, the pain for victims and survivors remain fresh. It is our collective duty to fight genocide, ideology, and revisionism in all the forms. Our presence today symbolizes unity and commitment to the never again cause. Let us work together to prevent such tragedy to happen anywhere in EAC region and in the world. As I conclude,
organization present, head of religious institution, EAC staff, members of the Rwandan community in Arusha and Moshi, students from high schools and University of Arusha region, distinguished guests, all protocols observed, good morning. Sorry, good afternoon. So, on behalf of the East African Community Youth, I thank the East African Secretariat for inviting us to this 31st commemoration of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. Today, we stand with the people of Rwanda and the international community to remember this atrocity. Genocide is a crime against all humanity, and it's our duty, especially as youth, to ensure such horrors are never repeated. It is tragic that this genocide, largely planned by senior leaders and carried out by youth, was stopped by another group of youth under the leadership of the 37th-year-old President, Paul Kagame. Their bravery will inspire generations to come. The lesson is clear. When youth are misused by those in power, it leads to destruction. But when well guided, they can be forces for good. Had no one stood up against the genocide, the entire Tutsi population could have been wiped out. Ladies and gentlemen, we honor the courage of those who sacrificed their lives to stop the massacre, and we pledge to fight against the genocide ideology in all its forms. In closing, I can call on our leaders and elders to guide the youth in fostering unity and promoting values that prevent divisions. Together, let us ensure that the future generations is equipped to say, genocide never again. Thank you for your kind attention.
And thank you very much for reminding us of what the youth are capable of doing, especially when it comes to securing our future. Thank you. I'd like to invite Ms. Tembile Segoete, representing the Office of the Prosecutor, International Residual Mechanism for Criminal Tribunals, to please come and address participants. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christine. Good afternoon. Habari za mchana. Muriwe. I am Tembile Segoete. I'm a senior legal officer and also officer in charge in the Office of the Prosecutor at the International Residual Mechanism for Criminal Tribunals. I am from the Kingdom of Lesotho. To avoid breaking protocol, please allow me to align myself with the words of those who have very eloquently articulated before I spoke. I am grateful for the opportunity to speak to you today in recognition of the 31st International Day of Reflection on the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. I would like to particularly thank the East African community and the Rwandan diaspora for their cooperation and coordination with the mechanism in organizing this event. I am most grateful today to get an opportunity for the last time, at least in my current capacity, because I will soon be leaving the mechanism and Arusha. So I'm most grateful that I am here today to celebrate and recognize this important event with you. We once again stand here, remembering those 100 dark days of ethnically motivated violence. We're here to remember, we're here to unite, and we're here to renew. Today marks the first 100 days, the first day of KWIBUKA 31. 3 decades have passed since over 800,000 Rwandan men, women, and children lost their lives and faced the reality of mortality. Countless more were mutilated, traumatized, forced into hiding, widowed, orphaned, and subjected to atrocious sexual crimes. Some among us, I'm aware that there are a number of youths in the room, so I am confident to say some of those among us today were not even born yet when those things happened. Others were there, and they will never be able to forget them for as long as they live. On this day, we gather together in remembrance of the genocide. We mourn its victims. We honor those who survived and acknowledge their resilience and determination. We salute the courage of those who provided refuge to the persecuted, many times even at the cost of their own lives. The genocide was an act of evil unique in history, and it is for this history that we must always remember it and honor its survivors and its victims. The focus of my address today is on genocide and international prosecutions and measures to curb genocide. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, colleagues, friends, the ICTR made an important contribution to the history of genocide through the number of cases it tried and the jurisprudence it laid down thereafter. From the work of that tribunal, we are able to identify signals through which we can spot genocide ideology and all its signs, in all its shapes, and in all its forms. Following the closure of the ICTR in 2015, the mechanism has safeguarded the legacy of its predecessor and continued efforts by the ICTR in documenting the genocide. One of the ways in which the mechanism has done this is to prosecute crimes aimed at interfering with witnesses who testified at the tribunal, because we realize that once we let those go unpunished, we are encouraging the erasing of history. Through groundbreaking jurisprudence by the ICTR, it was established that genocide against the Tutsi is an undisputable fact. With its outreach projects, the ICTR ensured that information about the genocide and the atrocities committed against the Rwandan people was freely available to Rwandans of all ages and to the world. The mechanism followed suit by continuing the huge task of translating ICTR's judgments into Kinyarwanda and making them available online. The mechanism has inherited the ongoing responsibility to protect those who courageously came forward to testify before the ICTR. Now, guided by the evidence heard from those courageous men and women who testified, the tribunal, trials, and appeals chambers have established rich jurisprudence which will forever guide us to recognize and identify genocide ideology. Why is it important to identify genocide ideology? Because it is only when we are able to identify it that we will successfully be able to curb genocide from recurring. From Nuremberg to today, we have been saying never again. Today, I think I've heard at least 3 people repeating never again. Sadly, our resounding never again has not stopped acts of genocide from happening. Through the adoption of the Genocide Convention and the work of accountability mechanisms such as the ICTR have been made clear in black and white, and they will never be erased. On the strength of those commitments, including the jurisprudence from the courts, it is clear what genocide ideology is and how it can be identified. Although many years have passed since the genocide took place, we remain constant in our efforts to ensure that the atrocities of 1994 are not forgotten. While we must be unrelenting in our resilience to those who would bring about a recurrence of hatred and bloodshed, we must remain alive to all signs of any risks of recurrence. This is how we learn from history. This is how we ensure that what happened before never happens again. This is how we demonstrate our respect for love for one another by working together, not only those who proudly call themselves Rwandans, but all people, all mankind. We build a future in which our children will not die bravely, but live freely, united, and without fear. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Tembile, and we wish you the best in your next assignment. And we also appreciate that you've always stood with the Rwandan community in Arusha in commemorating the genocide against the Tutsi. I hope that in the next community where you'll be going to, you'll still be able to join Rwandans in the activities to commemorate. I'd like to invite Dr. Mwiza Nkata, Principal Legal Officer representing the African Court on Human and People's Rights, to please come and make his remarks.
The Honorable District Commissioner for Arusha, who is also the guest of honor today, the Secretary General, the East African Community, representatives of various diplomatic missions in Tanzania. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to stand on existing protocol as outlined by previous speakers. My name is Muiza Nkata. I know the Rwandese amongst us think I might be Rwandese. I am not Rwandese, actually. I'm from Malawi. I know what my name means in Kinyarwanda. I think I'm looking the part, I would say, as my name means in Kinyarwanda. It means a very good-looking man like me. Anyway, I'm here to represent of the African Court on Human and People's Rights, Honorable Justice Iman Aboud. We were requested specifically to speak about genocide ideology, genocide denial, and also the pursuit of justice in relation to dealing with genocide. As a one-time teacher of the law, I would ask you to indulge me because I tend to lapse into pedantry, but I think that's a hangover from my university days when I used to be a teacher. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me begin by making a few remarks about genocide ideology. And in a technical way, this basically refers to sets of beliefs, ideas, or propaganda that dehumanizes a particular group of people, justifying or promoting their systematic destruction or extermination. Now, typically this involves deep-seated hatred, fear, or prejudice against a particular group of people or based on their ethnicity or religion. Although we are today commemorating the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, I think it is important to take a long historical perspective to the events that occurred in Rwanda in 1994. Because, as they often say, history has a way of repeating itself. And as we look into history, we will realize that there are certain commonalities to the events that happened in Rwanda to prior events. Quickly, I would point out that the events that happened in Nazi Germany between 1939 up to around 1945, and the events that happened in Cambodia, and events that happened in Namibia, Southwest Africa, all have certain commonalities which hold important lessons for all of us. If you look at the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, you will notice that underlying the violence that occurred at that time was an ideology promoted by extremist individuals, which framed the Tutsi as being a danger to the Hutu majority in Rwanda. And this was the immediate precursor to the mass killing of the Tutsis in Rwanda. Now, such ideologies in many countries are often spread through education, the media, and political rhetoric. And it tends to feed into episodes of violence and atrocities, monstrous atrocities, if it is left unchecked. I think given Rwanda's recent history, it is not surprising, therefore, that Rwanda has specific laws that deal with the genocide ideology and also the suppression of genocide. The legal developments in Rwanda are a mirror of the status of international law presently. As may be recalled, genocide is a grave international crime. The legal framework for genocide is underlaid by the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. The Genocide Convention, as may be recalled again, was the first human rights instrument that was adopted by the UN General Assembly in December of 1948. And it basically embodies the international community's commitment to banishing the crime of genocide. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, what then in this context could amount to genocide denial? This basically refers to the act of rejecting or minimizing the reality of the genocide that has occurred, often in the face of overwhelming evidence to the contrary. It can take many forms, but principally it can be undertaken by means of complete denial, basically attempting to suggest that a genocide never happened at all, or it could be through minimization, when a genocide is acknowledged but its full extent is downplayed. Or sometimes it could happen through blame shifting, where the victims are then portrayed as having somehow been the source of the misfortune that has befallen them. Denial is often linked to political or ideological motives, such as the desire to protect the reputation of a particular group or individuals. Now, historical examples of incidents of genocide denials abound, but if you look, for example, at what is often referred to as the Armenian genocide, you will notice that up to today there are controversies about how this genocide occurred. Equally, if you look at the incidents of the Herero-Namakwa genocide in Southwest Africa, up to now, there's many controversies about the extent of the genocide. So I think denialism is quite common in relation to genocide, and it requires astuteness to deal with such an occurrence. The genocide of the Tutsi in Rwanda has also been subject to denial and revisionism, particularly in the years following the conflict. Some sections within Rwanda, as well as some international actors, have downplayed the extent of the violence or the role of certain groups in the atrocities. As a form of action, genocide denial is often propagated through state-sponsored denial, media, especially social media in these days, and historical revisionism. While genocide denial is recurrent, it carries with it serious dangers. For example, it can hinder the pursuit of justice, it can fuel further hatred and divisions, and it can undermine historical memory. Ladies and gentlemen, regarding the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, over the past 31 years, if you look at the forms that denial has taken specifically, you will note that there's been incidences of a literal denial of the genocide, where there's been claims that the genocide never happened at all. There's been interpretive denial. This form has basically suggested that the genocide was a simple inter-ethnic conflict and it's been recast as something other than the genocide that it was. Or implicatory denials. This form of denial acknowledges that the genocide took place, but involves counter-accusations to blame the victims, thereby claiming something like a double genocide. How then can we fight genocide denial? I think firstly, by dismantling the denial narratives through learning and understanding ways of identifying genocide denial, how to support it in various media, and how to respond to it. I think it is also important that the youth must be involved in commemoration activities like is happening today. Genocide denial can also be dealt with by amplifying the voices of the survivors. And this is narrating the facts of the genocide, explaining about the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda in more detail. Also, by publishing more about the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda and promoting reliable, truthful literature. In summary, therefore, I think genocide denial and propagation of genocide ideology pose significant challenges to the pursuit of justice, reconciliation, global peace, and addressing it requires constant effort to educate, document and raise awareness, ensuring that all atrocities of the past are never forgotten and never repeated. In conclusion, I wish to point out that human memories are frail by nature, and with the passage of time, our collective recollection of the horrors of 1994 may begin to start fading. And I think it is for this very purpose that events such as today remain very important to remind us of what happened and to bring meaning to the phrase, never again. I thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mwiza. I'll now invite Ms. Flavia Businje, the EAC Director of Customs and Trade and the Chairperson of the Rwandan Diaspora in Arusha and Moshi, to make her remarks.
Good afternoon, Honorable Secretary General, our guest of honor. Please allow me to also align myself to the protocols that have already been established, and I go straight to my remarks. It has been said that today is the 31st time we are commemorating the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi that claimed over 1 million lives. We remember not only the lives lost, but also the dignity in which they lived. We carry their memory, and we carry the responsibility to ensure that truth of what happened is never forgotten, never denied, and never repeated. Genocide against the Tutsi was not spontaneous. It was carefully planned over decades by those who sowed division, normalized hatred, and denied our common humanity. As Rwandans living abroad, as Rwandans living in diaspora, we are guardians of the truth, and we must actively challenge narratives that seek to minimize and justify genocide. Our voices must be clear, grounded in truth, and guided by compassion, because silence in the face of injustice is never neutral. We also have an important role in uniting. We live in diverse societies and multicultural communities, which gives us a unique platform to model the values of reconciliation, inclusion, and solidarity that Rwanda has embraced in its journey of healing. Our strength does not only lie in the remembering what was lost, but in how we come together to honor that memory with dignity, unity, and hope. This is why, as East Africans and global citizens, we must raise our voices against hate in all its form, against genocide ideology, against divisionism, against those who attempt to erase or justify the pain of others. To the youth, this is the legacy we pass on, that even in the face of unspeakable evil, humanity can endure, that even when everything is broken, dignity can be restored, and that the most powerful weapon against hate is truth, spoken boldly, remembered honestly, and defended relentlessly. To all of us, to all of you who stood with Rwanda during its dark hours and continue to support their journey of peace and justice, today we ask again, stand with Rwanda in remembrance. Stand with Rwanda's people against those who revive the seed of division. Stand with Rwandan people against stand with the Rwandan people against those who revive the seed of division, stand with Rwandan people in saying never again, not just for Rwanda, but for all of humanity. The Rwandan history is painful, but the future is full of promise. Every step taken in remembrance is a step towards deeper unity, towards enduring peace, towards a world where no child will ever have to witness the kind of tragedy that unfolded in 1994. As I conclude, allow me to express our deepest gratitude to the leadership of the East African Community Secretariat for keeping this chapter in our history in the mind of and our hearts of our region, and to the government of the United Republic of Tanzania and local authorities in Arusha for the continued support and hospitality, the International Residue Mechanism for Criminal Tribunal and the African Court of Human and People's Rights for their effort in delivering justice and upholding international accountability. And to all of us who are present today, thank you for standing with Rwanda. Your presence here is a powerful commitment to never again. May the soul of the victims rest in eternal peace, and may our united voices echo across generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Flavia. I would like to invite Mr. Louis Uwimana, the representative of the Rwandan High Commission in the United Republic of Tanzania.
Honorable Joseph Mkude, Arusha District Commissioner, Honorable Veronica Nduva, Secretary General of the East African Community, Honorable Andrea Arik Agwe, Deputy Secretary General in charge of infrastructure, productive, social, and political sectors at EAC Secretariat, Honorable Annette Semwemba, Deputy Secretary General in charge of Customs, Trade, and Monetary Affairs at EAC Secretariat, Honorable Deputy Mayor of Arusha, Ms. Flavia Sinje, Chairperson of Rwanda Diaspora in Arusha and Mosh, representative of International Residual Mechanism for Criminal and the Tribunal, Ms. Tembire Segote, representative of EAC organs and institutions here present, representative of African Court of Justice, African Court of Human and People's Rights, Dr. Mwiza Kata, and the representative of Youth Ambassador here present, religious leaders, heads of representative of diplomatic missions and the international organizations here present, Ambassador Amir Ramadan Pungwe, who is our keynote speaker, Honorable Dr. Alphonse Murefu, Acting Principal College of Arts and Social Science, at University of Rwanda, ESC staff, distinguished member of the Rwanda community in Arusha and Mosh, students from different schools and universities in Arusha region, media, distinguished guests, all protocol observed, good afternoon. On behalf of His Excellency Ambassador General Patrick Nyamvumba, the High Commissioner of Rwanda to the United Republic of Tanzania, and on my behalf, I would like to convey our deepest gratitude to the ESC Secretariat, the International Residual Mechanism for Criminal Tribunals, Rwanda community in Mosh and Arusha, and all those whose efforts were instrumental in organizing this event of 31st commemoration of the 1994 genocide against Tutsi in Rwanda. I would also like to extend my heartfelt thanks to all participants for standing in solidarity with the Republic of Rwanda. Your presence is a profound source of comfort to the Rwandan people. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the genocide against Tutsi in Rwanda from April to July 1994 is the culmination of decades-long ethic-based hate and the ideology of division initiated thought and spread since the colonial period in Rwanda by the colonial administration, the Catholic White Fathers missionaries, and emulated by the initial political parties that is led by Red Rwanda and built their policies on ethical division and hate against Tutsi. This led to unpunished killings and extermination of Tutsi between 1959 and 1963 under the supervision of Belgian military officers mandated by Belgian administration. Ethnic division, marginalization, and persecution of Tutsi marked both the first and the second republics under President Kayibanda, that is year 1962 and 1973, and the President Juvenal Habyarimana, that is the year 1973 and 1994. Then those two republics installing a culture of impunity, enabling the deep-rooted hate that led to the explanation to planning and execution of genocide against Tutsi in 1994. The genocide against Tutsi was planned under administration of the President Habyarimana Juvenal, spread ahead by his ruling party called Mouvement Révolutionnaire National pour le Développement, and affiliate extremist parties under the coalition of Hutu power. From 1990 to 1994, systematic killings of Tutsi were organized by Hutu extremist militia, mobilized by local leaders, and encouraged by media propaganda. On 7th April 1994, the full-scale genocide was executed across the country, led by the interim government led by President Dr. Theodore Sindikubwabo and Prime Minister Jean Kambanda. Massacres started with the killings of Hutu political opponents who were against the genocide plan. The genocide lasted 10 days, during which more than 1 million innocent Tutsi were killed and stopped in July 1994 by the Rwanda Patriotic Front, headed by His Excellency Paul Kagame. I want to back on this figure just to correct what have been mentioned by a representative from African Court on Human Rights and People's Rights, mentioning a number of 835,000. We just want to correct on this. It's more than 1 million people killed during the genocide, just within 100 days. Kindly correct on this. The genocide against Tutsi left the Rwandan society with an unimaginable magnitude of problems. Survivors found themselves living side by side with their killers in their communities, despite very high levels of hate, fear, and distrust. The government of national unity, established on 19 July 1994, prioritized national unity, reconciliation, and resilience as the foundation of building Rwanda. The Umunyarwanda, that is a program mean I'm a Rwandan, as a cornerstone value. Despite great achievement in solid unity and resilience foundations, Rwanda and the region at large still face challenges from the genocide against Tutsi. The incidents of the genocide ideology that led to the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda is still being spread in neighboring countries and abroad under the cover and support of some Western countries, among which Belgium, a country that has deep-rooted responsibilities in Rwanda's tragic past. After the collapse of genocidal regime in Rwanda, its forces fled to the DRC, where they were supported by France and Zaire. Zaire, this is the former DRC. They were given safe haven and support to reorganize and establish bases in the eastern province of North and South Kivu, where they mobilized local populations to kill and commit ethnic cleansing of Congolese Tutsi, who they related to Tutsi in Rwanda. This resulted in the mass displacement of Congolese Tutsi and Banyamulenge into neighboring countries, including Rwanda, where thousands have been living in refugees camps and for the last 30 years. After reorganizing into armed group called Force Démocratique pour la Libération du Rwanda, that is FDR, the genocidal forces have launched terror attacks on Rwanda with the support and cover from the DRC government forces. The genocide ideology spread across the region, specifically targeting Tutsi, is a consequence of deep-rooted ethnic-based divisionism introduced in the region by colonial administrations. Before colonial interface, Rwanda never experienced ethnic-based massacres between its inhabitants. After Germany's defeat in the World War I in 1917, Its former colonial Rwanda was administered by Belgium, which initiated a deep reform of Rwanda's customary institutions, establishing a divisionism-based political system. In 1946, Belgium was given a mandate by the League of Nations and the UN to promote political, economic, and social progress of the populations, ensure equal treatment in these areas, develop their education toward self-governance or independence, respect human rights and fundamental freedoms for all without distinctions of race, sex, language, or religion. However, Belgium instead supported and enforced ethnic division among Rwandans, culminating in the creation of ethnic-based political parties in 1959. From 1959 to 1963, under Belgium rule, Rwanda experienced unpunished killings referred to as a genocide in relation to massacres of Tutsi in December 1963. These were carried out by Hutu Red Army, supervised by Belgian military officers. Belgium continued to support ethnic-based divisions, promoting the ideology of emphasizing the right of the majority ethnicity to rule and the supremacy of Hutus over Tutsis. This contributed to the planning and implementation of the genocide against the Tutsi in 1994 by the ruling party, Mouvement Révolutionnaire National pour le Développement. 31 years after the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, Belgium remains the main European state financing denialist networks with public budgetary support. Belgium continues to pursue an unacceptable policy of hostility against Rwanda and endorsing the propaganda of the DRC government, showing indifferences to the genocidal ideology spread by MRND and supported by DRC's high-level government officials. 30 years ago, the international community abandoned Rwanda in its greatest time and of need. The current situation of Eastern DRC is a reminder of the failure of this international community to prevent the genocide against Tutsi in Rwanda. Genocide ideology against Congolese of Tutsi affiliation is being spread in the thought, the humanizing language, like the word of snakes, devils, etc. The genocide against the Tutsi is distorted to fight into current narratives, minimizing its consequences and waterwashing its perpetrators. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude the 31st commemoration of the genocide against Tutsi is an occasion for Rwanda and friends of Rwanda to recall the community by the commitment by the international community under 1948 UN Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of Crime of Genocide to enact legislations that engage them in fighting genocide and its genocide ideology. It is commitment that was reiterated by the UN Security Council in its resolution number 2150 of April 2014, requesting member states to judge or extradite genocide fugitives on their territories. Rwanda reaffirms its commitment to play its rightful role among the international community in fighting the genocide ideology and preventing genocide, ensuring that never again translates into actions for generations to come. Once again, thank you for your support and the presence. Let us say never again anywhere in the world. We all deserve to thrive. Thank you very much. Asante sana.
Thank you very much, the representative of the Rwandan High Commission. We are going to have a 5-minute interlude. If you want to take a toilet break, this is the moment. So we'll just have a documentary feature, and thereafter we'll have the keynote lecture. Thank you.
kwibaza ngo iki tutakoze kwamamaza gukora nke twasibye gutabaza nke twibagiwe kuvuza induru nke twanze gukiriza indirimbo mbi yari iteka
Kindly, can we take our seats? Murenzi. I would like to kindly request the people in charge of protocol to please bring the people in the corridors inside. I think the next session is a very important session, and it would be good that we have everybody in here. Kindly. Thank you very much. There is one very important thing that we forgot to do at the beginning of today's event, which I believe is central to commemoration, and that is having a minute of silence for the departed souls. I'd like to kindly ask that we stand up, take a minute, and remember the souls of the departed. May the souls of the departed rest in perfect peace. Amen. You may take your seats. Before I invite the keynote speaker, I would like to recognize the presence of the clerk of the East African Legislative Assembly, the counsel to the community, as well as the students of Upendo Friends School. We do appreciate your presence. And I also want to take this opportunity to recognize and especially thank the police band for the music today. Please give them a round of applause. And last, I want to clarify, as the program indicates, Mr. Louis Uwimana is here to represent the government of Rwanda. He is here as a counselor. As you all know, we do have an office or a branch of our High Commission. It's situated at the AIC. In the event that the High Commissioner is not able to come in his capacity as the High Commissioner, then Mr. Louis stands here on his behalf. Thank you. Proceeding now, I'm very honored to invite our keynote speaker, retired Ambassador Amin Mpungwe. Allow me to just speak briefly about Ambassador Mpungwe. He was the head of the Africa desk of the Tanzanian Foreign Affairs Ministry when the request came from the RPF and Rwandan government for Tanzania to mediate Rwanda's conflict. He was appointed by the late President Ali Hassan Mwinyi to lead the Tanzanian team. Ambassador Mpungwe, who has since left the government of Tanzania, is now working in the private sector, and we can largely say that as the lead negotiator, he played his role in the best way possible and mostly regarded as successful. Ambassador Mpungwe, we are very honored that you accepted to come and give your keynote address, and we are ready to hear from you. Karibu sana.
Honorable Joseph Mkude, DC of Arusha, and Honorable Veronica Nduva, the Secretary General. I'm sure you'll agree with me, the previous speaker helped me a lot by recognizing everybody who is anybody. So I can only say protocol is observed. Secondly, I want to say I'm usually a terrible public speaker. And today, matters are worse. I've got a terrible flu. So if I disappoint you, it's because of those two reasons. As you're all very much aware, I've been asked to speak on the role of international community in the prevention of genocide ideology and pursuit of justice and raising a generation dedicated to peace, unity, and prosperity for all. Quite a mammoth task. I shall try my best and hope that my best will be good enough. However, it still remains both an honor and a solemn duty for me to speak on the issue that is quite critical to our region, our continent, and the humankind in general. And it's extremely emotional to me personally, as Christine introduced me, given my country's and my own personal commitment and deep involvement in resolving the conflict that had existed in Rwanda since 1990. the United Nations since 1999. As a result, through the Arusha peace process that had lasted from June 1992 to August 1993, Tanzania, in close collaboration with our continental body, the OAU, we made serious attempts to prevent the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, save for lack of serious commitment by our implementing partners, the United Nations, as I shall briefly elaborate later in this submission. Some of you may recall that following the collapse of the Nsele peace process, which ran from October 1990, when the war between the RPF and the Rwandese government forces broke out, to September 1991, Tanzania, as Christine had pointed out, was then asked by both parties to mediate the peace process under the auspices of President Ali Hassan Mwinyi as the facilitator, and I was assigned as his personal representative and mediator for the negotiations. As some of you may be aware, the Nsele peace process was largely run through the inherently ineffective several rounds of one-day peace summits. I think we know this, we are used to this. There are all these one-day peace summits that were characteristically very long in protocol and niceties, but extremely short on content and detail. That approach, the one-day peace summits, proved completely incapable of resolving the deep-rooted conflict that had existed, and it naturally collapsed. It is unfortunate that, Madam Secretary General, this one-day summit approaches still form the core of our regional and continental conflict resolution approaches to date. On the other hand, although the 13 months Arusha peace process unveiled focused details on all critical issues that had characterized the conflict in a very comprehensive manner, giving all the time to time during the deliberations, with all the implementations, milestones, and timelines carefully negotiated and agreed upon, failure by the regional and international community to implement the fundamental provisions and requirements of the Accord along the prescribed time schedules led to its unfortunate collapse at the high cost of 1 million innocent lives whom we are remembering today. It is deeply regrettable that the United Nations failure to effectively implement the Arusha Peace Agreement was the result of several interrelated political, structural, and strategic shortcomings, including lack of political will from the international community, a major lesson that we need to learn going forward. Many powerful United Nations member states, especially the United States, France, and Belgium, were reluctant to commit significant resources or troops to the Rwandese peace process, contrary to what was agreed upon during the negotiation process. Although Africa's regional body, then the OAU, now AU, had played its part in accordance with the UN's own agenda for peace, its persistent hesitation and reluctance to abide by the timelines that were extensively negotiated agreed upon and set in the Arusha Code remained a puzzle to many of us who were involved in the process. The international community largely underestimated the seriousness of the situation in Rwanda, which was largely viewed as a civil war and not as a deep-rooted conflict that we had considered here in Arusha, characterized by and seen as a possible precursor to genocide if it was not properly and comprehensively handled. As a result, the very weak mandate and long-delayed deployment of the United Nations Assistance Mission for Rwanda, UNAMIL, well outside the time frames that were agreed upon in the agreement, became a major setback to the effective and successful implementation of their code. Restrictively, UNAMIL was merely given a Chapter 6 mandate, which only allowed peacekeeping, not peace enforcement, which signified profound underestimation of the depth and severity of the conflict. The UNAMIL deployment had insufficient resources, limited troop strength, grossly understaffed, poorly equipped, and significantly lacked logistical support. The mission had fewer than 2,500 troops at its peak. And when the genocide began, troop levels were cut further to around 270, wholly made up of a Ghanaian contingent after the sudden and rushed withdrawal of most non-African forces from the genocide-torn Rwanda. Even while those troops were still deployed in Rwanda, requests for reinforcements and equipment were significantly delayed or even ignored by the UN Security Council. Additionally, the UN had also failed to recognize or respond to the growing extremism, political assassinations, and hate propaganda that was going on at the time, especially through Radio Milcolin. On this occasion today, it will be most appropriate to once again recognize and honor the courage, discipline, and commitment of Brigadier General Henry Kwame Anyidoho of Ghana, the then Deputy Force Commander of UNAMIL, who, despite all those odds, he retained the Ghanaian contingent in Rwanda to do the little they could to protect the civilian population at the peak of the genocide atrocities. He specifically committed himself that African troops cannot abandon Rwanda. The rest could leave, but he took that big risk to return the Ghanaian contingent in Rwanda at the time of need. Under the above circumstances, it is fair to conclude that the UN's failure in implementing the Arusha Agreement was not due to lack of information or foresight, but rather due to lack of resolve, inadequate mandate, and political indecision from key international players. It is a great lesson to learn as our region and our continent continue to face similar challenges now and in the future. The catastrophic failure by the international community continues to haunt and challenge our collective concerns as we ponder over more meaningful ways of preventing the genocide ideology, its propagation, and as we commit ourselves to the pursuit of justice the world over, most specifically in Africa. It transcends borders and nationalities. It is a global responsibility that must be embraced with unwavering commitment and resolve. The 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda serves as a painful reminder of what can happen when seeds of hatred, division, and indifference are allowed to take root. More than 1 million lives were lost in a matter of just 100 days. A tragedy that shocked the world and revealed the dire consequences of inaction for whatever reason. Today we gather here in Arusha not only to remember the past, but also to renew our commitment to a future that is free from such atrocities. And in this mission, the international community, including African regional organizations, have a vital and significant role to play. Commemorating the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda serves several vital purposes, both nationally and globally, for several reasons. In the first instance, it is a way to pay tribute to the over 1 million people, mainly Tutsi, who were brutally murdered during the 1994 genocide. The commemoration that we are making today ensures that their lives and stories are not forgotten, but continue to live with us forever. Secondly, remembrance of events like this provide a platform for survivors, wherever they may be, starting with those who may be in Tanzania or even in this audience today, to share their experiences, find solidarity, and receive emotional and psychological support as they continue the healing process from the genocide trauma. Thirdly, commemorations like this have a value of reinforcing the importance of national unity, reconciliation, tolerance, and the rejection of ethnic or any other form of divisions or prejudices. They are a key part of Rwanda's post-genocide efforts to heal and to build a peaceful, stable, and deeply integrated and inclusive society. In this regard, significant lessons could be learned from Tanzania's late father of the nation, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, when he literally transformed this country at independence in 1961 from a mere collection of different ethnic and tribal groups with a short period of less than 10 years to a strong, united nation, deeply integrated across ethnic, tribal, religious, color, and all sorts of divisions. It proves that such measures can be done, and they're possible to do. I belong to the first generation of the beneficiaries of that unique socio-political intervention, and I can attest to what had taken place in that process. Fourthly, occasions like this, therefore, help to educate the future generations on the kind of measures that could be taken, as it also instills profound awareness and understanding of the genocide's causes and consequences, ensuring that history is not distorted or denied, and that such atrocities shall never happen again. Fifthly, arising from the previous point, such as commemorations within and outside Rwanda would help to foster global awareness and chart out prevention measures that would ensure that such atrocities shall never happen again in our common humanity and in our community of nations. It therefore highlights the need for vigilance against genocide and mass atrocities in Rwanda and elsewhere in the world. It encourages the global community to solidly join hands and collectively uphold the principle and the clarion call for never again. Going forward, in our common endeavor to prevent the genocide ideology in Rwanda and elsewhere in our common humanity, the global community must invest in early warning mechanisms and robust monitoring systems. It is our collective duty to recognize the signs, many of which come in the form of hate speeches, racial, ethnic, tribal, or religious prejudices, as well as dehumanization and discriminatory behavior, long before they escalate into the dreadful, violent character. Prevention begins with education, awareness, and the promotion of human dignity, regardless of any real or perceived differences that may exist. Through the integration of peace education into educational curricula and promotion of inclusive governance, we can effectively challenge divisive ideologies and their roots. We must always be conscious of the fact that combating the propagation of genocide ideology, our societies and the international community requires humanity to speak with one voice, as all of us commit and dedicate ourselves once again in saying, never again. In this regard, hate speech, whether in social discussions, on radio waves, in newspapers, or across digital platforms, must never be tolerated. Strong laws must be enacted and enforced, and support must be given to media outlets and civil society organizations that promote truth, reconciliation, and unity. In today's era of digital societies, partnerships with technology platforms to combat online hate speech are currently more critical than ever. We must also ensure that in whatever capacity that we act, justice must always prevail. Justice is not only about rights and duties, or reward and punishment. As members of different communities interact, it is about healing, accountability, and restoration. The International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda demonstrated that justice can be saved even after unspeakable crimes. We hope the international residual mechanism for criminal tribunal will continue and sustain that work effectively. But international justice must go hand in hand with strengthening national justice systems. It is all about extending the frontiers of human freedom as we also strive to unleash the creative potential of the human race to its optimum levels. Rwanda's own innovative Gacaca courts proved that communities could play an active role in truth-telling and in reconciliation. The international community must continue to support such mechanisms, ensuring that no perpetrator finds heaven and that every victim finds recognition. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me now to address the role of the youth, whose ambassadors are here with us this afternoon, and we just had Her Excellency the Ambassador speaking here, the Ambassador of the Youth. These are the torchbearers of our future, and therefore have a critical role in shaping the peaceful and harmonious future of our societies, our countries, our continent, and our common humanity. Our youth, wherever they are, have a unique and powerful role to play in shaping a world that rejects division and embraces unity. Most of the young people represented here today constitute a generation that has been born in peacetime, and therefore it becomes their responsibility to protect it, nurture it, and never take it for granted. The memory of the genocide must not fade into the past. It must live on as a lesson and a warning in our collective endeavor to establish peaceful and harmonious communities on our continent and the entire humanity as a whole. Our youth must actively reject any form of hate speech, discrimination, or division, whether in conversations, on social media, or in everyday life. They must be the voices that stand up for truth, for inclusion, and justice, even when it is extremely difficult. Promote dialogue, celebrate diversity, and become ambassadors of unity within your schools, colleges, communities, and the nations at large. Our youth of today, they should always seek knowledge, understand their history, ask questions, and engage with survivors. It is through learning and reflection that resilience is built and empathy is fostered. Our youth should be courageous in speaking out against falsehoods and in standing with those who are marginalized or vulnerable. Most importantly, our youth, out of essence, need to dedicate themselves to building a Rwanda or any other country or society that they belong to, and a world where ethnic labels no longer divide us, but where humanity and shared values unite us. Together, our youth have the power to write a different chapter, one of peace, reconciliation, and collective strength. At the same time, the international community, and particularly the African regional organizations, can and should play a crucial role in the prevention of genocide ideology, its propagation, and concurrently in the pursuit of justice through best practices of rule of law and good governance. Their responsibilities can be summarized across several key areas, largely through prevention of genocide ideology. In such measures and mechanisms like, firstly, the establishment of early warning and monitoring systems. In this regard, international bodies like the UN, the African Union, and other sub-regional organizations like EAC and SADC should put mechanisms that are able to detect early signs of conflict and hate speech, which are often precursors to genocide, and involve appropriate and effective resolution measures. Secondly, there must be deliberate and intentional educational and awareness campaigns that promote peace, human rights, and tolerance to counter the spread of genocide ideology, particularly in the post-conflict regions. Thirdly, to ensure sustainability, we must also take measures that enhance and support democratic governance through inclusive political systems, rule of law, and respect for human rights in a manner that helps to reduce and eliminate conditions that lead to development of divisive ideologies, including genocide ideology. Additionally, the international community can take further measures that could aim at combating propagation of genocide ideology, including public denouncements and or impose sanctions or unleash political and diplomatic consequences on leaders or groups that are promoting hatred of all sorts. As the world gets deeper into the digital era, through partnerships with technology companies and civil society, efforts can be made to curb online and offline propaganda that promote hate speech or disinformation measures that incite violence or division. We must also take various measures that aim at capacity building through providing training and resources to national institutions, media, and educators on how to identify and respond to hate speech and discrimination of any sort, as well as undertake programs that promote national unity and diversity in all walks of life. The fast and unfolding global geopolitics notwithstanding, in the pursuit of justice, we should intensify our support for international tribunals and human rights courts through such bodies like the former International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, the International Residual Mechanism for Criminal Tribunals, the African Court on Human Rights and on Human and People's Rights, and the International Criminal Court, which have held individuals and organizations accountable for acts of genocide and crimes against humanity in the past, and should continue to do so in the future at a more vigilant and higher success rate. In this regard, national governments and the international community as a whole should continue to assist affected countries and communities in locating, extraditing, and prosecuting genocide fugitives who have fled to their communities and countries. We must all work and contribute to effectively end the regressive culture of impunity on genocidal crimes. Additionally, national government on their own and in collaboration with international and regional organizations should help to strengthen domestic judicial systems, such as Rwanda's own Gacaca courts, to ensure justice is available to all, and where it has been tempered, meaningful correction and reconciliation takes place effectively and in a more timeless manner. African regional organizations, particularly the African Union, through its peace and security architecture and panel of the wise, also have critical roles to play in promoting conflict prevention and mediation. We ought to learn from the continent's past experiences and make full use of experienced mediators and build upon conflict resolution models that have proven to be effective or present better chances in resolving our numerous conflicts, particularly deep-rooted conflicts which are so complex to resolve and may often lead to genocidal acts. Additionally, regional economic communities like the East African Community and Southern African Development Community should establish mechanisms that would render support to peace-building efforts, as well as render easy sharing and quicker dissemination of early warning information. The continent's existing normative frameworks and legal instruments, such as the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, should continue to emphasize the protection and prevention of both individuals and mass atrocities. In conclusion, I wish, therefore, to call upon the international community and the African regional bodies to continue to collaborate in these endeavors with a view to preventing the genocide ideology from occurring or spreading, responding swiftly to its propagation, and ensuring justice is delivered to the victims. Active involvement of these bodies is critical to building lasting peace and protecting future generations from the horrors of genocide. We must all be aware that genocide is not a primarily Rwandese problem, nor a uniquely African issue. It is a human problem. Preventing it demands global solidarity, regional collaboration, and national action. We must never again allow political convenience, international indifference, or bureaucratic hesitation to stand in the way of protecting innocent lives. Let us work hand in hand, governments, international institutions, civil society, and citizens, to build a world where the ideology of genocide finds no soil in which to grow, where justice is swift and fair, and where memory is preserved, not with sorrow alone, but with a purpose and hope, as we are doing today, here in Arusha, and on this KWIBUKA Day. I thank you so very much for your attention. Thank you.
Kindly, can we give Ambassador Amy another round of applause? Thank you, Ambassador, for reiterating the purpose for commemoration, particularly emphasizing that commemoration is part of Rwanda's deep-rooted efforts at national unity, reconciliation, and nation building. In addition to that, you've also highlighted that with commemoration, we ensure that history is not distorted and denied, of which denial, as we all know, has the ability of igniting events that could lead to what we saw in Rwanda in 1994. And this is not only in Rwanda. This was not a unique situation for just Rwanda. It could happen anywhere. Thank you for reminding us. In addition to that, you also highlighted the value of speaking in one voice to say never again. You also highlighted that international justice should work hand in hand with national justice systems with the aim of securing freedoms. You also emphasized the role of the youth as the torchbearers of the future, ensuring that the memory of the past does not fade. You also stated that genocide ideology should find no soil to grow. Thank you very much once again. I would like to invite Dr. Alphonse Mulefu, the acting principal of the College of Arts and Social Sciences, University of Rwanda, to make his presentation titled 30 Years Before and 30 Years After, Lessons for Africa from the Genocide Against Tutsi in Rwanda. You're welcome.
District Commissioner, Arusha Guest of Honor, Secretary General EAC, our host, allow me to stand on the protocol as already established. And speaking among the last, there is always a risk of repeating what has already been said. But along the way, I will try to minimize those incidences unless where I think it is absolutely necessary to emphasize. I was asked to discuss 30 years before and 30 years after lessons for Africa from the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. I have to admit that I have been struggling to structure this presentation, and I've just decided that I should start from 1994 and keep moving steps backward into the before and forward into the 30 years after. The 1994 genocide against the Tutsi left Rwanda completely destroyed, bitterly divided, and traumatized. It was unimaginable to believe that a country that faced numerous challenges of rebuilding a society torn by nearly 4 years of civil war and one of the most efficient, destructive, and intimate genocide of recorded human history was a realistic endeavor. Chances of bringing back some level of stability to a country where an estimated over 1 million persons had been killed and more than 2 million refugees scattered in neighboring countries and around the world, many of whom were forced into exile by the former Rwandan authorities, were very slim. There was mistrust between Tutsi and Hutu, and historical facts were interpreted differently. There was a problem of criminal justice that was very slow, and the ideology of divisionism was rampant. This caused the country to live under sporadic violences. The situation was obvious to experts of transitional justice that even a sophisticated governance system could not have provided adequate solutions to these challenges. From May 1998 to March 1999, about 200 people representing different stakeholders convened every Saturday in the President's office to discuss and find solutions to 5 critical issues of the country: unity of Rwandans, democracy, justice, economy, and security. It is the recommendations of the Village Urugwiro meetings, as it was called, that provided guidance to the solutions that have been implemented in these 30 years, and of course, with some amendments. On the question of national unity, it was concluded that the 2 governments that came immediately after independence failed to build the unity of Rwandans, which had been progressively weakened by colonialism and different massacres of Tutsi that occurred from 1959. The post-independence Rwandan leaders, the Hutu elite, developed a policy of systematic discrimination against the Tutsi. The post-genocide Rwanda has banned identity cards and introduced the concept of Ndumunyarwanda to emphasize national identity. Today, Rwandans live on the same hills. Survivors and perpetrators are working together in the process of rebuilding themselves and the country. On the question of democracy, it was argued that the period before the genocide had manipulated Rwanda's social groups for political reasons. Therefore, participants in the Village Urugwiro meetings recommended that governance should be about resolving societal challenges. It should encourage active participation, accountability, and consistently seek solutions through dialogue and consensus building. The first, as I mentioned, justice was another challenge. The first genocide-related case to be tried started on 27th December 1996 and completed on 3rd January 1997. By 1998, it was very evident that classical justice was unable to resolve all the related challenges. It was estimated that it would take more than a century to try more than 135,000 suspects in preventive detention without considering those who were still at large. International pressure was also increasing on the new government because suspects had remained in preventive detention for more than 10 years, and it was even expensive to sustain them. However, inasmuch as it was tragic for keeping suspects in detention for several years in very poor prison conditions without trial, it was similarly unbearable for survivors to live a normal life next to these suspects without any form of accountability. Determined to bring accountability for all, in 2001, Rwandan authorities established Gacaca courts, a community-based and tradition-inspired dispute settlement mechanism. By the time Gacaca courts closed in 2012, in a period of 10 years, it had dealt with about 2 million cases of crimes related to genocide. Rwanda's economy had several structural challenges. Rwanda was an agricultural society depending on subsistence farming with a very weak financial sector. It is a landlocked country, and exploitation of its natural resources was not developed. The period of conflict and genocide was very disruptive and destructive. The defeated government had emptied state coffers, and people had lost hope in the future. Rwanda's aggregate GDP per capita was at $260 in 1990, and life expectancy was at 48 years in 1990, and in 1994 it was at 26 years. Following the Village Urugwiro recommendation, Rwanda has implemented Vision 2020 and the Economic Development and Poverty Reduction Strategy, and is now implementing Vision 2050 and National Strategy for Transformation. On the average, real GDP has been doubling compared to the before the genocide. Today, Rwanda's GDP per capita is at $1,000 and life expectancy is at 70 years. For peace and security, Rwanda continues with the existence of hate speech around the world and within the region. This undermines the fragile unit of Rwandans and social cohesion. It is important that we appreciate the fact that security is not only about the protection of territorial borders, it is also about the values of the people that make up a nation. Preserving the unity of Rwandans is a vital value because of the history of the genocide against the Tutsi, and is a security threat as long as the international community continues to tolerate a group that is responsible for such a genocide. In ensuring the principle of non-repetition, it is clear that since 1994, the post-genocide government has been on a mission of making sure that Rwanda does not only become a failed state, which was very possible, but also recreate a respected country of which all Rwandans are proud of. There is one lesson that Rwanda can confidently share with other African countries. Every society is capable of experiencing a genocide. There is nothing inherently dangerous about the people who took part in the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. In fact, Europeans who committed the genocide against the Jews when they are believed to have been fairly sophisticated compared to Rwandans. This should be frightening to all of us, especially Africans where we have diverse communities. I do not want to blame circumstances, not even the circumstances of the decades of colonization and discrimination. Those who participated in the genocide made their own decisions to join. Of course, the government was heavily involved in the preparation and execution, but they were neither ignorant nor stupid. Ladies and gentlemen, hate is not a speech. It is a crime. To conclude, Rwanda is still a nation under making, where most of all elements of nation state are still under reconstruction, and its survival has been to a large extent dependent on the charisma of its leadership. It is fair to submit that Rwanda's narrow escape from being a failed state to what it is today can be attributed to its charismatic leadership. I hope I have not claimed that solutions adopted in Rwanda were perfect, nor that such approaches are necessarily adaptable to situations elsewhere. As rule of Huffman reminds, international scholars are looking for commonalities to build their theories on, and scholars from countries in transition often think that their situation is exemplary for other situations too, when actually every commonality between situations is accidental and does not help to find a response, as responses are or should be context-driven. Nonetheless, previous post-conflict societies, including Rwanda, can provide some general lessons to contemporary challenges. If Rwanda can make it, many other countries can do better. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for reminding us that preserving the unity of Rwandans is necessary for Rwanda's secured future. You've also told us that hate isn't speech, but it is a crime, and that the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda was not an event that was unique just to Rwanda, and that it can happen anywhere. But most importantly, appreciating the role of the leadership in Rwanda in ensuring the survival of the nation, but also the recovery of its people. Thank you very much. We are going to have a short interlude, and I would like to invite the children from the Rwandan community in Arusha to give us a poem, and we'll proceed thereafter to the last session of today, where we'll hear from the Honorable Secretary General and the Honorable Mayor of Arusha. Thank you. Apologies, the District Commissioner. Thank you. Okay. I'm told that the children have stepped out. I think it's been a long morning for them. I'll now invite the Honorable Secretary General, Honorable Veronica Nduva, to make her statement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, our Director of Ceremonies. Good afternoon. Maybe we can stand up and stretch a little. It's good for blood circulation. You may have your seats. Thank you. Thank you so much. Allow me, Your Excellency, our guest of honor, representing Paul Makonda, the Regional Commissioner of Arusha, our District Commissioner Joseph Mkade. Thank you so much for joining us. Our representative of the Rwanda High Commission in Tanzania, thank you for joining us. Heads and representatives and executives of EAC organs and institutions, Excellencies, heads and representatives of diplomatic missions, international organizations present, heads of religious institutions and EAC organs and institutions and staff, those also joining us online, members of the Rwandan community in Arusha and Moshi, students from Upendo, asanteni kwa kuja, wanafunzi kutoka Upendo, tunafurahia sana. Universities of the Arusha region, our distinguished guest members of the Fourth Estate with us here, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Good afternoon. You know, the only way we can finish this is if you respond. Thank you so much. We've had a lot today, and I'll start by saying this. In 1994, when this sad occurrence in our history began, I was in high school in Nairobi. And I heard about it. I saw there was not much social media as there is today, but I saw a lot of images on our television screens. I read a lot of stories in our newspapers. And that was in 1994. 30 years later, in 2024, in one of my visits to Rwanda as Secretary General, I made a deliberate effort to visit a memorial and was taken through the journey. It is a journey that no one would want to walk through. So we remember 31 years later. Today we've also had a lot. We've really had a lot of rich history perspectives, right from the African Court of Human and People's Rights. We've had a lot from the International Residual Mechanism, great remarks. We've also had a lot from Ambassador Mpango. I suggest Balozi, please sit next there. I think I see you're struggling. There's a seat next to JB there. I'm okay. Karibu. We've also had a very good perspective from our lecturer from the University of Rwanda. I think it must be a pleasure to sit in your classes. And what I've had, even as I go into my remarks, are a few takeaways. That hate is not a speech, it is a crime. It is not a duty that we are remembering, but it is a testimony. We've heard that the past may be painful, but the future is steeped in promise. We've also heard that the youth are the torchbearers. We've heard that the most powerful weapon against hate is truth, and that a new chapter of peace, reconciliation, and strength is an obligation that the youth must embrace. I will title my statements a painful success story of the pathway to greatness. 31 years ago today, the people of Rwanda and indeed the whole world witnessed one of the most horrific scenes of violence and crimes against the humanity of the 20th century. In just 100 days, over 1 million Tutsis and moderate Hutus were killed by Hutu extremists organized and funded by an extremist government. We are gathered here today to pay tribute to those who lost their lives during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi and comfort the survivors of that mayhem who have endured its burden for the past 3 decades. We salute the resilience of the children who are orphaned, some of them among my staff, the mothers and fathers who were rendered childless, girls and women raped and impregnated and left to bear children of their killers, and all those with invisible scars. Despite the pain, traumas, and anguish they individually experience each day of their lives, mostly around this period of mourning and reflection, they have chosen to forgive and reconcile with their former tormentors. They are the epitome of hope, renewal, and inspiration for all of us to recommit to never again to genocide. Distinguished guests, the East African Community, to which Rwanda is one of the 8 members, considers genocide prevention as a collective obligation. Indeed, Article 5 of the Protocol on Peace and Security provides for cooperation in the prevention of genocide within the community. To operationalize the protocol in this area, partner states commit through Goal 17 of the Strategy on Regional Peace and Security to organize commemoration ceremonies of genocide victims at regional level. It is in that context that the East African Community Heads of State Summit erected a genocide monument here at the ESC headquarters in 2014 in memory and honor of the victims of the genocide against the Tutsi, but also as a tangible reminder of our shared responsibility to prevent future atrocities. I am happy to report that the ESC Secretariat has for the past 11 years partnered with the Rwandan High Commission, the UN Residual Mechanism for International Tribunals, the Rwandan community in Arusha, as well as the local government leadership of Arusha to commemorate the genocide against the Tutsi. I want to assure you of the ESC Secretariat's commitment and resolve to uphold this annual commemoration and other initiatives at national, regional, and global levels that facilitate the sustainable prevention of genocide. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture to pause and just appreciate the team that has worked around the clock to put this event together, not just this year, but every year for the last 7 years. I wish to ask the committee that did this year to please be upstanding. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And to our directors, Amy, Flavia, and JB, thank you for the leadership. As we commemorate, my mic is having a problem, Renzi. As we commemorate the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, it is important to note that some or most of the elements that heralded the genocide in Rwanda in 1994, such as hate speech, incitement to hatred, ethnic profiling, disinformation, and dehumanization, are still present in some parts of our region today. The presence and access to social media and other tools of mass communication amid structural conflict drivers such as youth unemployment, governance deficit, and proliferation of small arms and light weapons in parts of our region makes it more prone to identity-based conflicts and violence. As Adama Dieng, former UN Special Advisor on Prevention of Genocide, said in 2014, and I quote, "We must accept that there is no part of the world that can consider itself immune from the risk of genocide, and all regions and all states must build resilience to these crimes." Thank you. Genocide, a process that takes time, planning, and resources. Professor Gregory Stanton identified stages of genocide as the following: classification, symbolization, dehumanization, organization, polarization, preparation, extermination, and then denial. He notes that the first stages precede the later stages, but continue to operate through the genocide process. As such, genocide can be prevented if states and regional as well as international organizations put in place necessary strategies and early warning mechanisms to monitor and identify risk factors to facilitate preventive interventions without waiting for people to die. At the ESC, we have established and operationalized an early warning center here at our headquarters, headed by Patrice Mlama. I have not seen Patrice today. is not around, and national early warning centers in 4 partner states, and plans are underway to do the same in the remaining partner states. The early warning center's mandate is to facilitate the anticipation, preparedness, and early responses in order to prevent, contain, and manage conflicts and other threats of peace and security in our region, including genocide. The centers do this through systematic data collection and analysis on the basis of clearly defined conflict indicators. We have mainstreamed genocide prevention throughout our early warning indicators and believe that this will enhance our capacities for timely detection, and response to prevent future genocides in our region. Distinguished guests, as I conclude, I want to underscore the importance of timely response in genocide prevention efforts. It is common knowledge that the international community was widely warned about the looming danger of genocide in Rwanda, but no action was the response. We turned our back on Rwanda. That is the bottom line. To prevent our region from ever experiencing such atrocities, there is need for enhanced coordination and synergies between national and regional stakeholders in detection and response, including the pursuit of justice for the victims and the survivors. To this end, I urge EAC partner states to take steps to develop a joint mechanism for the prevention of genocide and undertake appropriate measures against the perpetrators in line with Article 5.2b of the East African Community Protocol on Peace and Security. I wish to state, as a person who has visited Rwanda several times, I managed to participate in the campaigns and went for the final campaign of His Excellency Paul Kagame. And I saw and listened. I was following, it was in Kinyarwanda, but I followed. And he talked about the rebuilding of that country 30 years on. Sanctions, excessive measures are not the solution. Let us not destroy the country that has been rebuilt with pain and blood and tears. Once again, thank you. Once again, on behalf of the EAC and on my own behalf, I send our warm sympathies and solidarity to the government and the people of the Republic of Rwanda, especially the survivors of the genocide against Tutsi during this day of reflection and commemoration. As I finish, I want to leave us with a small lesson that a little bird whispered to me. The people of Rwanda prefer to be called Rwandans and not Rwandese. I thank you for your kind attention. Asanteni sana, murakoze sana.
Thank you very much, Honorable SG, for your remarks, for reminding us that genocide prevention is a shared responsibility, and there is a need for coordinated efforts at preventing a repeat of another genocide. You also highlighted the initiatives that have been taken up by the EAC Secretariat, such as the establishment of the Early Warning Center, and particularly mentioned that we have mainstreamed genocide in all early warning indicators. You also called for a joint regional mechanism for the prevention of the genocide. And once again, we thank you very much for your presence today, for hosting this event, and for the remarks that you have given. Thank you. So we've come to the end of our commemoration event. And I would like to invite the Honorable District Commissioner for Arusha Region, Honorable Joseph Mkude, who is our guest of honor, to make his remarks. Karibu sana.
Jina naitwa Joseph Modest Mkude, mkuu wa wilaya ya Arusha. Nimekuja kwa niaba ya Mheshimiwa Paul Makonda, mkuu wa mkoa ya Arusha. Anawasalimia sana. Honorable Veronica Nduva, Secretary General for East Africa Community, Head and Executive of East Africa Community Organ and Institution, Representative of High Commissioner of Rwanda to the United Republic of Tanzania, Head of Diplomatic Mission and International Organizations, Representative of Religious Organization, East Africa Staff, Deputy Mayor, Member of Rwandan Community in Arusha and Mosh, Student of High School and University of Arusha Region, Upendo Friend School student, distinguished guests, all protocol observed. Good afternoon. Good afternoon again. It is both of honor and profound responsibility to stand before you today on this 7th day of April 2025 at the first commemoration of 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. I take this opportunity to extend my gratitude to the leadership of East Africa Community and partner for organizing this annual commemoration events. Today, we gather not only to remember the lives lost, but also reflect on enduring legacy of pain and resilience that this tragedy has left in its wake. In this span of just 100 days in 1994, over a million innocent people were brutally murdered, and countless others were affected by violence and displacement. As we stand here, we bear witness to their stories, their struggle, and their hope for a better future. Your Excellencies, in the United Republic of Tanzania, we understand the weight of such sorrow. It is in this context that we recognized the importance of unity, compassion, and collective healing. The 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda serves as a harrowing reminder of what can happen when hatred prevails over understanding and when division are allowed to fester unchecked. As we commemorate this dark chapter of Republic of Rwanda and humanity, we must also honor the strength of Rwandan people. The journey of recovery and reconciliation that Rwanda has undertaken since 1994 is testament to the resolute spirit of citizens. It is a journey that inspires not only Rwandans, but all of us in the East Africa Community region and beyond. The effort to promote national unity, promote forgiveness, and build prosperous future are commendable. They remind us that even in face unimaginable pain, it is possible to rise, rebuild, and move forward together. Your Excellency, the people of Arusha region stand in solidarity with the Republic of Rwanda. We are committed to support initiatives that promote peace, security, and development in East Africa regions. Together, we can work towards future where such atrocities are not repeated, where children can grow up in societies that celebrate diversity and embrace our shared humanity. Let us also take this moment to reaffirm our commitment to education and awareness. It is our duty to ensure that the lesson learned from 1994 genocide against the TUTSI are passed on to future generations. We must teach them about the danger of hatred, intolerance, and division. By fostering a culture of peace and understanding, we can create a world where every individual is valued and life is respected. As we remember those who perished in 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, let us also celebrate the resilience of those who survived. Let us preach to work together across borders and communities to build a future rooted in justice, compassion, and unity in our region. May the memories of victims of 1994 genocide against the Tutsi inspires us to create a world where love triumphs over hate. Thank you for your attention. Tomba waandishi wa habari baadaye ikaiweke sawa nje ili watu community yetu iweze kukaa sawa. Asante sana.
Thank you very much, Honorable DC, for coming to stand with us today as we commemorate the 31st time, the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. Honorable DC, we appreciate your emphasis on the requirement for lessons to be passed on to the younger generation, with particular emphasis on the need to highlight the dangers of divisionism and hate speech. You've also called upon the people, East Africans, a culture of peace as well as respect of life. But most importantly, your remarks on the people of Arusha and yourself standing together with the Rwandan community in Arusha, in Rwanda, and around the world on this day has been a highlight for us, and we thank you very much. So as we close today, once again, I just want to say thank you very much to each one of you who took your time to come with us. As Rwandans, and perhaps echoing our head of state, whenever it is the 7th of April and there are 100 days that follow, we always ask of our fellow East Africans, our fellow Africans, and everybody around the world, that out of the 365 days, give us just one day to be in solidarity with us, to remember those that we have lost. Whatever your feelings may be, there is another day. Out of the 364 days, you're free to do whatever you want, express yourself, but today, one day out of the 365 days, kindly stand with us. It's not a hard ask. So thank you very much. We have a photo session at the steps of the VIP exit. The children had gone for lunch. Sorry? No, it's not those ones, it was the, yes. So we have, are the children ready? Okay. So as we wait for the children to come, I'll just brief you on what follows after this ceremony. First of all, we have a photo opportunity at the steps of the VIP. We'll invite everyone to just go on to the VIP exit where we started our march for a photo opportunity with our guest of honor. And then we'll be advised by the EAC communication team on where the press can meet our guest of honor and the Secretary General. And then finally, we have refreshments that have been served. On that note, I just want to thank you for your patience. I know there are people who got here very early, did not have their breakfast, but we have something for everyone.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. We are the generation after the genocide, and we are here to recite a poem. We were born after, but we remember. Today we remember with hearts so wide. The tears that fell, the ones who cried. In 1994, the dark night came. A nation's heart was filled with pain.
We were born later, but cries of sadness and pain beneath the skies. A bright land now hurts, but hope comes near. And darkness, we can find lights. Cheer, and we can cheer.
We didn't see it, but we know the past. Silence, the loss. Shadows that last. So many gone, but their names stay. In every tear and in every pain.
Our parents cried, their hearts still sore. Their stories are deep, and we feel them more. We share their pain, we stand up tall to keep their truth alive for all.
We tell their stories, we speak their names, so hate won't rise, nor light be tamed. With love and peace, we make a new world. We build a new world of kindness. Today we stand strong and brave. guidance of love and unity. Hate won't win, we break its chains, never again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. In Rwanda, we call them Rwanda Rwejo, the Rwanda of tomorrow. And like they've said, they're here to break the chains of hate. So I believe everybody from today's event, on my part, the biggest lesson has been, let's bank on the youth for a united future. Thank you very much, Ambassador Amy. Thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you, our guest of honor, the Secretary General, the representative of the government of Rwanda, the representative of the Office of the Prosecutor, our religious leaders, the representatives of all the other organizations that I have not mentioned, and everybody here. Thank you very much. So I'll request that we please stand up, and we'll have the EAC anthem played to close. Thank you.